Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Balanced Fit and Free podcast. I am Ray Ann Mullins, your host, and I am so grateful that you decided to listen today. I'm really so excited to talk about this topic today because it is honestly one of the things that I think in the last couple of years has completely changed everything for me, honestly. And if you're new here, it's probably important for you to understand that I have been a fitness trainer since I was 18. So 30 years, almost 31 years since I've been teaching fitness classes with a little short time in there where I stopped and gained a bunch of weight. But I've made it my mission in life to help people feel better about themselves. That is my mission, right? And it began as a mission of helping people feel physically better. And a lot of that passion was driven by um, truly watching my mother not feel good physically, not feel good about herself physically. And also just watching how many people were really just unhappy because of how they looked. So I thought if I could do my job and help people feel good physically, like actually feel energy, feel good, feel good, want to move more, but also feel good and confident about themselves and how they looked, that was like my passion. And it is still part of my passion. But throughout the years of watching so many people do well and then fall off and then not do so well, and like watching people go through these journeys and my own journey as well, I started feeling very much like there was a huge, huge piece missing. And so that's when I started really diving into mindset and trying to figure out, what's the disconnect? What's the disconnect of knowing how to eat well, knowing how to exercise, having a perfect plan, which by the way, there's no perfect plan, but you know, you could literally hand somebody a plan and tell them what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, when to exercise, what to do for exercise, and people won't do it. I mean, they will. Some people will. Some people are really good about it, but they can't do it forever. And this bothered me because I thought to myself, well, if I can't help somebody follow the plan and if I can't help somebody exercise and I can't help them feel physically better, then what's the point? Like, I really went through a little poor me time where I was so bummed that I wasn't making a bigger impact. And that's when I discovered that it wasn't just mindset anymore. I discovered that it was beyond that. It's beyond what you eat. It's beyond how you exercise. It's beyond what you think. There's something deeper and more. And that is when I found breath work. And I want to just say this, breath work is just the tool. It's an amazing tool because we all have access to it. Every single human has access to their breath. But it's not just doing breath work. It's truly using breath work or other tools to understand yourself. And so today, I'm going to teach you a little bit about the system that really flipped all my thinking. And it just hit me so hard that this is the starting point. When you learn this system and this idea that I'm just going to give you a little snippet of today, when you learn this and understand it and can fully see it, not only can you fully see it on yourself, but you can fully see it on others. This is when transformation happens. This is when you can get down to the root cause of whatever's happening in your life. And this is the kind of thing that once you understand it and see it and do the work, that if you are interested in changing how your body looks and feels, then you're going to be more likely to do it. Or maybe it has nothing to do with your body. Maybe you really want to start a business, or maybe you really, really want um, a new marriage or a different marriage or a marriage or a relationship. I'm not saying you should leave your marriage now and for another one, but maybe it is what you need. I don't know. Anyway, my point is anywhere in your life where you are not satisfied or fulfilled, when you truly listen to this learn it, understand it, do the work, I would bet you, I would bet a lot of money that things would start changing in your life for the better. So let's get into this. All right. So, as you know, we have been diving into inner healing a lot more this season. I was kind of scared to do it. I was touching on it in the past seasons, touching on it, but I was a little bit afraid. And you'll see why here in a little bit. I was a little bit afraid to change because I didn't want to lose anyone. I didn't want people to be like, oh, what is she talking about? I just want to know what to eat. I just want to know how to exercise. But I discovered that not doing this was actually hurting people more than doing it. So I'm jumping in. So this all about inner healing. Here we go. We have this season already talked about what transformation is, okay, what it means to transform. We have discussed being self and what that means to be self versus the version of you that is for everyone else. Okay, we're going to talk more about that today. We have also discussed the core wounds, okay, the core wounds that have been collected throughout your childhood and life. So, those three areas are important. And I started with those first before coming to this on purpose. Okay. So, a couple of years ago, I learned all about parts work, and that's what we're going to be talking today, parts. I learned about it, but I didn't really fully dive into it until last year when I was going through my breathwork certification. And during this breathwork certification, I learned so much about internal healing. And a big part of the program was learning about parts and doing parts work. And from there, I started reading other books. I started following other, psychologists and therapists, and I started, going following videos. I did another course. I really dove into it because to me, it was like, oh my gosh, this has been the missing piece that I've been seeking for many, many years. Okay. So anyway, um, the breath work really was the thing that kind of launched me back into it. So I'm so thankful that I found that. And, once I learned about parts and protectors, I suddenly was able to totally like look at my life in a completely different way, in a very helpful way. And I believe that you too will find this really eye-opening. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's my favorite thing to say to people when I teach this to them. It's like once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then you see it on everybody. But that's good because once you can see it on yourself and then you can start to see it on other people, we start to have a much more compassionate society. So I think that this is super important for everyone to learn. And, once you hear it, it's pretty intuitive, actually. It's pretty like once you hear it, you're like, oh, I mean, it'll totally make sense. Like 100% makes sense. It's just nice having some kind of structure to what we kind of already know. We already kind of know this, but hearing somebody tell you about it and giving you permission to look into it just makes it more tangible. It makes it more real. Okay. So today I'm only going to touch on the topic and give you some personal examples just so that you understand it. And I'm really excited though, and I mentioned it in the last episode, I believe, that I have created a in-depth masterclass all about this. And it's coming up very soon. There's going to be an online version and there's going to be an in-person version. And I'm going to be taking this workshop and masterclass and hopefully going, around the whole country and sharing this information because I believe it's that important and can really help so many people. So if you are listening to this and you don't live in my area, I know that there's a lot of you out there that do not live in North Carolina because I hear from you. And if this is something that you are interested in and you would like me to come to an area near you, please reach out and we will make it happen. Um, so anyway, super, super excited about that. Anyway, I hope you'll consider it. And if you don't want to do it in person, if you don't live here, I will offer an online version just so that you have the opportunity to get the training as well. Okay. Oh, and I want to say this. This training also happens at my Authentic Awakening retreat, which is happening again, January of 2026. Enrollment is open. So if you would like to talk to me more about that retreat, if you weren't able to go last time and you are this time, maybe you're, available in January of 2026, let me know. Let's have a conversation about it. I don't have very many rooms left already. So the sooner the better if you would like to go. Okay, so let's jump into it. What is parts work? Well, first of all, I first learned about this in breathwork. Like I told you, we call it parts and protectors. But then I discovered that there's actually a whole therapeutic system called internal family systems. So this system is used by therapists like all around the world. Richard Schwartz is the creator of this method, but now there are so many different variations available, just different kinds. So what I've done is I've learned about internal family systems. I learned a couple different versions of it, and what I've done for myself is I've taken the parts, parts, no pun intended, but the pieces of all of these systems, and I've put them together in a way that makes sense to me. And that is how I'm going to teach it. So I just want to remind you that I am not a therapist. I am not licensed to be a therapist. I do not do therapy. But as a inner wellness coach, I am allowed to work with you through these parts, but I cannot diagnose mental illness and I cannot give you any kind of treatment plan. However, as an inner wellness coach, I am able to sit with you and help you map out your parts, and I'm able to help you create action tasks around the parts. So, what's really great is currently I'm working with people who are using me for the action tasks and the breath work, but they're also seeing a therapist. So the combination has been just amazing for so many people. And so if that sounds interesting to you, definitely send me an email. We can talk a little bit about it if you're interested. So the core idea is that we all have parts in addition to self. Okay. So have you ever just been trying to make a decision and you say something like, well, there's a part of me that wants this, and then the other part of me wants that? That's what I mean by parts. Okay. We all have different parts inside of us in our personality. Like at one time, you might be sitting there having all these different thoughts as if you have multiple people and decisions and comments, opinions, and expectations. There's a lot of things going on in your head, right? So most people, though, view humans as one, right? One body, one life, one mind, one personality. But through the research, we've found that this just isn't exactly right. We are a lot more complex than just being one. If we were all just one opinion, one personality, one mind, things would be a lot more linear in our world. But things are way more complicated than that. And there's a lot of diversity, there's a lot of dynamic to our life. So that just proves that we are a lot more complex than just being one. Okay. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Let's see. So we are, like I said, made up of many parts. And these parts were created throughout our life, through experiences, through conversations, through traumas. And not even just traumas, but even through like happy times, we create little parts, okay? Little parts and protectors. So, what I'm going to do is just quickly explain the parts and pretty briefly, okay? Just understand that these get a little bit more in depth than what I'm sharing today, but I don't think it's super appropriate for me on a podcast to go really deep because they can get pretty complicated and it can actually bring up more feelings inside of you. So I would rather keep it pretty surface level. And then I would recommend you either get with your therapist or contact me or a parts working person. There's other people around the country that do this to get some help. All right. But anyway, so first up, we have self. We've already done a whole podcast about self. So if you haven't listened to that, it's like 2 back. So go back and find it, okay? And re-listen to that if you don't understand it. But self is who you are at the core, who you were born, like who you were when you were born. You were born into this world as self. Self is there and will always be there, has always been there. Unfortunately, through our childhood, we are conditioned to be like those around us. And I'm just going to say really quick, I say unfortunately, because many people then believe that they can't be anything different or more. Okay. And this creates limiting beliefs and it creates people from really striving to be their best. Okay. Because they think that they need to stay stuck in a box. Okay. So on the other hand, we of course need some nurturing and conditioning to learn, right? We can't just be a baby and be born into the world and left alone because we have to learn how to crawl, walk, talk, eat, ride a bike, read, brush your teeth, all these things. We need to understand how to be a human. So clearly, we need a parent or a parental figure to show us the way, to teach us. Okay. So there's no denying that we need some teaching and conditioning. So I'm not saying that. However, what also gets passed on to us is limited thinking. Okay. And that is the thing that creates an issue for people. And this starts the process of losing self. Okay. So you're born into the world. Okay. You're born into the world. You're a clean, fresh slate. And as soon as you open your eyes and you've just been born, immediately you're getting signals. Immediately you're learning, right? So when you're from age 0 to 7, your brain is more of in a theta like wave, which is going to be more absorption. It's learning and it's figuring it out. Okay. Every single thing you experience as a little child is a learning moment. Okay. So think about the things that we learn. We think about religion. We watch our parents, the way they talk to each other. So we watch personalities. We watch, conversations and the communication between people. We watch body language. We watch, even like little kids that like cuss all the time. We're like, oh, we know what their parents are saying. Stuff like that. Like they absorb everything. They're just absorption. That's also why little kids can learn languages really fast. They can move to another country and learn a language really fast because they're in this, like, they're like a little sponge and they're just absorbing everything. Okay. That is self. And as we age and we start learning like expectations or society's rules or the church's rules or the school rules or the coach's rules, or that we got all these things piled on top of us, right? They just get piled up. And it totally makes sense, right? So, all of these expectations and learnings become like clouds in front of the sun. Okay, so we have the sun is self. Okay, imagine the sun. Even on a cloudy day, we know the sun is there. We just can't see it. But we know because it's might be daylight still, and we know for a fact that the sun is there, even if we can't see it. Okay? So that's what self is. Self is the sun that is covered up by clouds. The clouds represent expectations, limiting beliefs, and just parts, our other parts of our personality. Okay? So one bad thing about that is so many people live their life for other people. Like they live up to everyone else's expectations. Okay. And pretty soon, a lot of people have no idea who self is. They're like, I don't even know. Like, have you ever felt like that? Like you're like, I don't even know what I want. I literally don't even know what I want. And this was me, I don't know how many years ago, but several years ago, not too long ago though, where all of a sudden I just was like frozen because I was like, I don't even know. Like I have no idea. Like what do I like? I didn't even know what food I liked. I didn't even know. It was all about like being someone for everyone else that I no longer even knew who myself was. Okay. So there's that. The other part or parts, so self is one. That is one. You have one self, solid. It's the sun, right? Clouds are all the other expectations and limiting beliefs and parts. So then we have our exiles. Our exiles are the parts of us that we want to hide. Okay, we don't feel so good about these parts. So we shove them down. We try to like keep them under control. We keep them, under wraps. Okay. Um, they might be like the angry part. Okay. They might be the sad part. They might be the bossy part, the mean part, the seductress, the short-tempered part, the ditzy part, the sarcastic part, and so many more. Okay. There's a lot more. It just depends on your own personality and conditioning that determines who your exiles are. And these exiles are usually created because you've been reprimanded for something. Okay. So there's a big part of me that I don't want to be too dramatic, because my like one thing that like when I was in high school, my mom would be like, "Oh, Rayanne, oh, Rayanne, making such a big deal of everything." And so there's that part of me that was like, even now when I do these podcasts, there's a part of me that is like, don't be too dramatic. Don't show too much because you don't want to be that person that's so dramatic and exaggerated. So that's an exile. An exile is something that you maybe like don't want to have come out because you're worried that other people, right, or yourself will not like it. Okay. So, um, these parts, like I said, come from our experiences, whether it's a traumatic event or even just a comment made. Okay. We create these parts. And exiles aren't the only thing created. We also create protectors. Okay. So protectors then are what helps protect self from getting hurt. This could mean getting physically hurt or hurt emotionally and or spiritually. So these protectors pop up to prevent future harm. This can be a really good thing though. Okay. So I just want to say that our protectors have really a positive role sometimes, and sometimes a not so positive role. Okay. So a protector can be positive because it can actually protect you from harm, but it can be negative because it may be holding you back from reaching a goal. Okay, so an example of a good reason to have a good protector would be, let's say that you pull into a dark parking lot and you're about ready to get out of your car, but there's something in you that tells you not to, that it's not safe to get out of the car. Okay, this protector is being cautious and is guiding you to not get out of the car. I would say that's a really good thing. That's that kind of gut instinct that we get of like, ooh, something doesn't feel right. That's a part of you like being like, ding, 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 there's danger. Like it's paying attention. We want that, right? We want that. So that's a really, really good thing. Okay. And that, something like that could keep you from getting mugged or worse, right? So, an example of a protector not really protecting you is this. Let's say that you really want to get a promotion at work. You know that you're qualified, you've been there the longest, you're really definitely the best fit for it, but you decide not to go for it because you're afraid that if you don't get it, you're going to look silly and you don't want people to see you fail. So, this protector is holding you back from taking a chance. Okay, this protector is keeping you safe by not allowing you to take a risk just in case you fail. Okay, so do you see the difference? Protectors mean well, but they could be holding you back from your dream life, truly. Okay, so quick review. The parts are self, who you are at the core, the true, real, authentic you underneath it all. And then we have the exiles, which are the parts of you, the shadow parts of you that you aren't so proud of and you kind of want to hide and have a kind of a negative, they give you a negative feeling, okay, mostly. And then there's the protectors, the parts of you that pop up to keep you safe, even when they aren't needed, oftentimes when they're not needed. Okay. The goal of this type of inner work is to discover who self really is, identify the protectors and exiles, and work with each part to allow them to be available for you when needed and to step down when they are not needed. Okay, we need the protector to step up when we're in danger. We do not need the protector to step up when we are wanting to grow or transform, change in our life. We ideally want to always lead from self. That is the whole goal, is to be self most of the time. Okay, lead from self, lead from your heart. Your heart and self are closely related. Okay. So ideally we want to lead from self and keep the protectors in the background for when they are needed versus allowing the protectors to act before self. We don't want to have our protectors be default. We want self to be the default and protectors to have a role when we need them. So it's really important to understand that the parts really aren't bad. Like we need them. We've created them as a part of ourselves to keep us safe. What we need to discover is that we alone as self can protect. We don't need that protection all the time. In fact, just being self, that's the goal. But we want to like embrace all of the parts. We don't want to get rid of them. So I want you to understand that we want these parts, these protectors. They've been created by maybe little you. Maybe you've had this protector with you since you were 3, or maybe you created a protector when you were 25, or maybe you created a protector last year when you got divorced. Like we're always creating parts. It's not a one and done thing. It's like every time you have an experience, you very possibly could be creating a new protector or a new exile. So it's super important to understand and hold on to self and let self be the leader, not the parts. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about the protectors. Protectors are actually able to be broken into 2 categories. Okay. And this is following the internal family systems. Like I said earlier, there's different like modalities, but I like this particular description from the internal family system approach. And Richard, like he's my friend, he doesn't know I exist. But anyway, Richard created in the protectors, he made 2 categories. There's the firefighters and there are the managers. Okay. So each one has an important role to play. Let's talk about them. Protectors do things like distract you or make you go into control mode. So the firefighters are your distraction, okay? And your managers are your controllers. Let's talk about the difference. A distraction, let's say this. Let's say that, okay, a distraction would be, how does a distraction work? Well, it might be, I'm really bored at work, and if I get caught being bored, I might get fired. So you distract yourself by going and doing something. Okay. So a distraction, it might be, well, probably a job. If you're at your job, you probably shouldn't do this, go get a snack. But a firefighter would be emotional eating, drinking alcohol, smoking some weed, scrolling social media, binging Netflix, anything to take attention away from whatever you're feeling. Okay. This is where so many people get into trouble with emotional eating, especially, in what I've been doing for all the years, like working with people on their nutrition and exercise, is that people will do great all day, all day, all day. And then at night, they're not so busy. So they start feeling feelings and they're like, oh, I don't want to feel the feelings. So I'm going to go eat chocolate. The sad part of that is most people don't even know that that's what's happening. So this happens automatically because they're allowing protector to step in front of self instead of self being the leader. I hope that makes sense. So distraction is a protector. You start to feel away, so you're like, whoop, I don't want to feel it, so let me distract myself. Okay. Boredom, sadness, loneliness, those are all big components of needing a distractor. Then there's the controller or manager. The manager mode is when you decide to get it all together. Okay, you start a strict diet, you organize your closet, you write your to-do list, you create action steps, you do something to make yourself feel in control again. Okay, this is also a protector. Okay, I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going to get in charge. I'm going to take charge. Also, it sounds kind of weird, but people pleasing can also be a manager. Because people pleasing, making sure everybody likes you, making sure everybody gets what they want, is actually a manipulation, which is so crazy. So if you're a people pleaser, you might think you're the world's nicest person and you're just trying to make everybody happy, but it's actually one of your protectors because you don't want anyone to not like you. So you make everybody happy by taking care of them, but actually that's a way of controlling them. Okay. Whew, that blew my mind. When I first learned that, kind of ticked me off, to be honest. I'm like, that is not true because I'm such a people pleaser. But then I started noticing, oh, yeah, I'm so afraid of people to not like me. I'm so afraid to hurt someone's feelings. I'm so afraid that I'll be shunned or kicked out of the group or someone will fire me as their coach. And so I over make them happy to keep them, to keep them. But actually that's controlling because maybe you're no longer the right person for them. Okay, do you see where I'm going with that? Okay, I'm going to move on from there, but because I could talk about that a long time. However, it is one of your managers. It's a protector also to be a people pleaser. And then there's other characteristics and behaviors that are protectors as well. But like I said, we're just going to touch on this. So what happens is there becomes a cycle that occurs between all of the parts, and we need to learn to break or at least work with the cycle. Break the cycle or learn to work with it. Okay. So here's what happens inside. Whenever we have a trigger, and remember, a trigger is something that gives you an emotion. It could be a comment from somebody, it could be anything that triggers your exile. Okay, something that gives us an emotion, usually a negative emotion. We feel the exile, that part of us appear. Remember, the exile is kind of like your shadow part. It's kind of like a part of you that you don't want to come out. Maybe you have a really bad temper and you start to feel angry and you're about ready to explode because that's your exile. And you're like, oh God, like I don't want that to happen. So when the exile appears, we kind of freak out inside and we have a protector pop up, a firefighter usually, to distract us. Oh, I'm just gonna go over here and I'm gonna have a beer, or I'm gonna go over here and um, I'm gonna leave, or I'm gonna avoid, distract, I'm gonna eat, I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna do a drug, I'm going to do anything to stop that exile from coming out. Okay, this is what happens. This is the cycle. Then let's say you do the distraction. Let's say you have the firefighter come in, you eat the food. I'm going to use that as an example. You eat the food, and then the manager comes in and is like pissed at your firefighter part because it's like, why did you do that? Now I have to clean it all up. Right. So this is where all of the conversations happen in your head. Okay. A lot of people know about multiple personality disorder. Well, this is not the same. The difference, I just want to throw this out. I wasn't going to talk about it, but I think we should. You see these movies with people with multiple personalities, and the difference is we all have that. We all have that. However, when it becomes an issue is when the person actually believes they're that part. And I wish I could remember the name of that movie. It's with the guy, the guy that has all the parts, and he's like a kid, and he's a woman, and he's a man, and I don't remember, he's in some basement somewhere. Anyway, it's a great movie. It describes this perfectly, except that's more of an actual multiple personality issue. We all have multiple personalities and parts and protectors, but the difference is we know not to act on them. We might act a certain way or feel a certain way, but we don't become that part. We don't become the inner child that is, the exile. We don't become the teenager that, you know, got scolded and now binge eats in their bedroom. So there's so many things. There is a difference, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So let me give you a personal example of what my pattern or my cycle between my parts was for many, many years. Okay. So this happened before. I mean, it's happened most of my adult life, actually. So, but let me just say it. So, as a trainer, fitness instructor, nutrition coach, mindset coach, I honestly felt like a lot of pressure. And it's a lot of pressure because you feel really judged. You feel like everybody's looking at you like, you've been teaching fitness classes that long? You still have love handles. Like what? How can she be like, does she really know what she's talking about? You have, whether that happens or not, you think it's happening. Okay. So there's a lot of pressure. So if I had a bad day where I maybe didn't feel like exercising or I felt like eating a cheeseburger or whatever, I would start to have these feelings of not good enough, not a good trainer. Like this kind of the exile in me was, I knew you'd always gain weight back, you fatty. Like I have this like this part of me, the exile would pop up like, told you we weren't going to be able to keep this weight off, although it's been 20 some years now. But that exile in me pops up, right? And then I'm like, I don't want to think about, it. I don't want to think about, it. I don't want to think about it. So guess what I go to? I go eat cookies. Man, a good chocolate chip cookie puts out that fire like that until it doesn't. Until my manager comes in and says, fat ass, I totally knew this was going to happen. Now we have to start over. Now we have to go back to tracking calories and macros, and you've got to get enough protein. And I go into this hardcore controller. And I feel like that controller then is going to get me back in order, you know? So this just goes on and on. And it becomes this conversation in your head of like, oh, I don't feel good about myself. So let's eat cookies. And then the manager come in saying, well, you idiot, eating cookies is gonna make you feel worse. We got to get under control. Come on. You have a part to play here. You need to show everyone you know what to do. You need to look the part. You need, so do you see where this is going? All right. Well, this is probably happening with you too. Maybe it's happening with the same thing. Maybe you emotionally eat. Maybe it's happening in your relationship. Maybe it's happening at work. Maybe it's happening with your money. Maybe I'm not sure where it's happening, only you know. But I'm wondering if you can just take a moment, just pause and think, oh my gosh, I do this. I guarantee you do. I guarantee it somewhere in life, you're having a feeling pop up. So you do an action to push that feeling back down. And then you have another protector come in to clean up the mess. Okay. I love this. I love it because once you see it, you can fix it, right? The problem with this cycle is that it's never ending. The cycle went on, like I told you, with me for years and years and years. And thank God I learned how to stop the cycle. Okay. I'm proud to tell you that I have stopped it. I no longer do this cycle. I don't. Like I can feel it coming. I can feel the exhale rearing its head, you know? But because now I've done the work, I recognize my exiles, I recognize my firefighters, I recognize my managers, and I'm able to recognize the pattern starting. And so therefore I can stop it from happening. And it's totally changed my life. I mean, the battle of emotional eating is gone. I emotionally ate since I was, I mean, like 16 years old and no longer. So here's the cool thing. Guess what? I love sweets. I've told you a million times in these podcasts that I eat a cookie or chocolate every day. It is a fact. But you know what? I do it as self. Myself wants chocolate, wants cookies. I can eat one cookie now and be satisfied and happy. Whereas when I was using it as a firefighter, distractor, protector, I would eat 10 to 12. And half the time I wouldn't even taste them because I was just numbing. You know, it's just another form of numbing. And now I don't numb in that way. What I do is better. I actually pay attention to how I'm feeling and I question it. I get curious. I work on it and or talk about it. Luckily, I have a really great husband because I can tell him all this. And fortunately, he has learned all of this too. I don't know how much he does the work on himself, but he understands it enough that I can talk to him about my issues and my parts. And it's really easy to go from here. If you can't see me, my hand's really high, all the way down here. It's like my nervous system can get super activated, but with just a few, um, change in my thinking, just a few little conversations or adjustments, I can be regulated and back to a good space so that I don't have to go into the cycle. Okay. But I gotta tell you, even though I've figured it out, especially in that part of my life, that doesn't mean I'm done working, right? There are other areas of my life that I'm recognizing the same cycle. And you may not recognize all the cycles until you've completed working on one. It's really hard to work on everything at once. If you are really, really, really wanting to stop your emotional eating habit, then you work on that habit. You watch that pattern, you do the work. But it's really hard to work on that and also be working on another part or another cycle. And sometimes you don't know the other cycles are there until you clean up some of the other cycles. Okay. I hope this is making sense. So, anyway, it's a process and it's something that will continue on the rest of my life. It's a journey, it's not a destination. Just like eating healthy, just like exercising. You can't do it for 2 weeks and hit a destination, right? To keep your results, you have to keep going. You have to keep eating healthy. You have to keep exercising. You have to keep doing the work inside because every single day a new part can be born. Every single day because someone can walk into your house right now and scream at you and yell at you and call you names. And that very possibly could create a new part, a new protector in you. So you have to be able to recognize it happening. And when you recognize it happening, then you can prevent it from happening more often and you can find all the cycles, you can find all your behavior patterns, and you can correct them. Okay. So anyway, I think this is super critical, crucial, whatever. All right. Conflicting feelings are completely normal. So another angle of this system is to notice when your parts are in conflict. Okay. Totally normal to have inside of you two different opinions. Okay. We call it duality in breath work. You can feel one way on one hand and feel the other. But just pausing to notice that you feel both ways is going to help you understand. Okay. And that's not super clear right now. And you need to come to my training to learn more about that. But just know that it's very normal to have conflicting feelings inside of you. Okay. So let's say that you go out to eat. This is a super common example. And I even used it, I think, in the last episode. But let's say you're going out to eat and you're trying to decide between the salad with protein and a greasy burger and fries. Okay. If you stop and pay attention, you can literally feel the parts inside of you arguing, right? Each part wants to win. Okay. They both have compelling arguments. So, on one hand, or one part of you, that angel, like we've heard about this, the devil and the angel on your shoulder, the angel wants me to get the salad with protein because the angel is like telling me all the reasons why you're going to feel better tomorrow. You won't feel bloated. You're not going to crave sweets later if you eat that. It has a really compelling argument. And you're like, yes, 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 yes. But then you got the devil over here going, yeah, sure, you can do that, but hey, we only live once. How often do you eat here? How often do you get this burger and fries? I know if you're listening to this, you've had this exact thing where there's a part of you, the angel part of you is like, okay, I really should get the thing that's better for me. But then this devil over here is like, oh, come on, live a little. You're fine. You know, so this is normal. And it's also important to realize that self is the one that needs to make the decision. It's not the angel part or the devil's part. It's self. Self has to decide what to do. When you know who self is, and when you know deep down what self wants, you can make the best decision for self. Okay? Does that make sense? So, this is why it's so, so, so important to know who you are and what you desire most. Okay. The clarity of knowing what is best for you is going to make it so much easier to make decisions. A lot of the times that we can't make a decision is because we don't know what we really want. Okay. And these decisions are going to be so much bigger than choosing just the salad or the burger. There's going to be other decisions in your life. That's a minor decision if you're going to eat the burger or the salad, right? That's at the end of the day. Yeah, if your major goal is to, you know, lose a bunch of weight, then probably You want self to choose the salad and protein, right? But there are bigger things happening. There are bigger, actually, probably more important things happening. Like, do you want to stay married to the person you're married to, right? So, or are you with someone? Are you with somebody because yourself wants to be with this person? Or are you with someone because your protectors are afraid you'll be lonely for the rest of your life? So people make choices not from self all the time. They a lot of times allow protectors to make the decision. And I just use that marriage one or relationship one because I think that that's really true. I think people are afraid to be alone, so the protector in them latches onto whatever is closest. And not always because it's the right person or the right thing to do, but because their protector doesn't want them to feel. Okay. Or maybe it's with your career. Are you in a career that you want to be in? Or are you just going through the motions at a job because it's safe and it pays the bills? Okay. Are you staying in the United States and not traveling abroad because you don't want to, or because your protectors are keeping you stuck and safe inside your own city or state? Okay. So these are just some examples. All right. I think that's enough. So I just wanted to introduce the parts to you. And I hope that just this episode gives you just this amazing look into your own system, into your own family system. You have an entire family inside of you. You have children, you have teenagers, you have young adults, you have yesterday's person. There's a lot of parts inside of us. So I hope that this gives you a visual. The visual I have, I'm just going to share this, is I think about me and I picture myself, like I'm self, like what I look like, my hair, my everything. That's self. That's who I am. And then I imagine all these other parts of me standing behind me instead of standing in front of me. Like I lead, I'm the leader. It's like me standing at the front of the group and the rest. And then you know what? Sometimes I need to call on them. I'll be like, yo, I need emotional eater to step up, please. Or I need yeah, whatever. I need a protector to come in right now. You can call on them. It's not like getting rid of them. They have a job. It's like knowing when to use them, but learning to lead mostly from self or be heart led. Okay. Oh, so if you want to learn more or get help with this in your own life, please consider, like I told you earlier, coming to the master class. Okay. Or to the next Authentic Awakening retreat that is in January of 2026. To get into that, by the way, you just need to have a conversation with me. As of now, there is no link to click. There's nothing out there. I'm just having conversations and filling it up. I've only reserved 10 rooms and there's only a few spots left. Actually, I'm super excited. I do have a payment plan. So knowing that it's a year away or a little less than a year away, that gives you time to plan ahead or pay it off if you need to. Um, and then the masterclass is coming. Again, it's going to be in person and online. I will run it online several times, but I will also be having it in person several times throughout the year, hopefully in different locations too. So if you're interested in that, I did put a link in the show notes so that you can learn a little bit more about that. But like I've told you guys before, my webpage is, I just put it out there to give you some information. If you want more information and you're not sure it's for you, just get in touch with me. I'm so happy to have a conversation with you or at least email with you if you don't want to talk on the phone. Okay. So before I go, I want to encourage you to reflect on your own parts this week. Okay. Just from this little explanation, can you see how parts work can really help you? Think about the cycle I told you. Think about the different parts. Think about the exiles. Think about, the patterns in your life, the things that keep happening, the recurring patterns. How can you take those patterns and apply this? Okay. I would highly recommend you get out a journal and just write it all out. It really, really will help you. So thank you guys for being here. If you found this helpful, please, please take just a moment to rate and review the podcast. I feel so like on a mission to get this information out, and the podcast is just one way to do that. And if you know anybody that needs to hear this, please share or even just post on your Instagram. You could take a screenshot of the podcast, put it on your stories, and recommend people to listen to it. Anything to help get the word out. That would be so, so amazing. I really appreciate it. And I will catch you guys next week. Take care. Bye bye.